Onion skinning. That's right. And in 3D, for reasons that are really obnoxious, we don't have onion skinning.
Yeah, I'm getting really irritated. I've been trying to use snapshots.
I will tell you something. Animating once you start animating with onion skinning in a 3D program, and at Anzovin Studio, we wrote an internal onion skinning tool, which we haven't released because it's not general purpose yet. The problem is, if you tried to run it, it would probably just break. It's not. It is like internal to our pipeline, and like we want to release it to the public at some point, but at some point I'd have to get Brian, our programmer, to sit down and like make sure it's actually ready for people to just use it and isn't just going to crash, you know? But we do have an onion skin tool. It's unfortunately pretty slow, and that's the other problem with it, because here is something that is true of Maya, and I don't know if it's true of Max, but it is definitely true of Maya. Maya, because of this whole node graph that it has a very difficult time evaluating things on frames other than the current frame. Because the way Maya works is you go to a frame, and on that frame it runs through the graph and gives you what you see on the screen. It has a very difficult time, because of the way it's been programmed, doing that for frames that you're not on. So, of course, with onion skinning, you need to see frames that you're not on. That's the whole point. So the way that we wrote our onion skinning tool was that it basically, at the push of a button, goes and renders out a bunch of frames and then loads them in as image planes and makes them semi-transparent.
Okay, so you basically render poses to kind of...
Yeah, I mean, well, basically it just goes to each pose that you've set and renders what that looks like and loads them all in and as image planes and makes them semi-transparent. But the problem is, even though we're not doing real rendering, this is hardware rendering that we're talking about, is OpenGL, because of the way that Maya treats its hardware renderer, meaning they never intended people to be using it while they were animating, they figured people would use it for test renders, right? You know, there's like a cost to rendering each one of those things beyond just drawing the screen. So the drawing the screen part isn't the problem. The problem is it sets it up and it calls this other little application that it does in order to render those things, and basically Maya is not particularly efficient at doing this. It wasn't intended for that purpose, so you'll have to be sitting there for a couple of seconds when things appear, which is not especially nice. It's still pretty awesome. However, that is not the only way to deal with that, and it's actually only recently that we got that tool. And I do love the tool, but you can work this way without the tool. And in this case, I was working, in the case of 11, we did not have the tool yet when we were doing it. And here's how we do it. We use a tool, and it's interesting because it's actually based off of a Mac script that's out there somewhere. It's called the Tween Machine. And what the Tween Machine does is that it goes to, basically you have one pose, and you have another pose. And the Tween Machine has a little slider, and you're going in between those two poses somewhere, and it allows you to slide like, okay, I'm just going to generate a pose that's closer to this pose than that pose. So it just like basically makes a new pose for you with some simple linear interpolation. You're probably not going to use what it does. You're probably going to pull things around more into like, you know, some other shape that's better. But it gives you the basis for like, well, this is about in between those two other things, and then you just scrub back and forth a lot and just sort of like look at where things are popping to get your sense of like how the poses are flowing. Not as good as onion skinning, certainly, but certainly possible, and that's how we worked for quite some time before we got the onion skin tool. But indeed, you have hit on something that for some reason no major animation package has dealt with, which is to say, onion skinning is awesome and why don't they have it? And they don't.
Mac 2011 has it.
Oh, it does?
It's called Show Ghost, and go to Views, Show Ghost.
Oh, well then.
I don't know how to...
Why didn't we know that? I'm so mad.